This is the Classical Cafe. I'm Caitlin Matson-Levy, and we welcome into the green room today Holly Mulcahy, concertmaster of the Wichita Symphony Orchestra, Maestro Daniel Hege, conductor and music director of the Wichita Symphony Orchestra, and composer George S. Clinton, composer of the Old Cowtown Suite, but also composer of the Rose of Sonora Violin Concerto, written for Holly, which will be performed next weekend, April 9th and 10th. Hello, everyone.
Hey,
Hello.
I'm so excited to have all three of you with me today. I feel greedy. Oh, it's great. So I'm going to start off, first of all, with you, Holly. What does it feel like having a concerto written just for you?
Well, it's custom tailored. It feels like I've been spoiled. Every kind of indulgence was given to me, basically. And I worked alongside with George saying, let's try this, let's try that. And he had some ideas. So, I mean, it's custom tailored. It's just a lot of fun.
Holly and George, how did the two of you first meet?
I was doing a film music festival in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I'm from, with the symphony there. And Holly was concertmaster for that concert and for many more, but that's the one we met on. And we just became fast friends. I don't think you were even supposed to play that concert, right? You were doing
Not
an
originally.
afterworks.
Yeah.
And it was just serendipitous that we met and just clicked. And then after that, it was Holly's idea to do a Western themed violin concerto.
Western themed concerto. I have heard Holly speak many times about her love of old Westerns, spaghetti Westerns, and their soundtracks. So I'm sure that that had some influence, didn't it?
Absolutely. Every year when I drive out to Wyoming, or when I had a car and drove out to Wyoming, I would have hours and hours of soundtracks to listen to, because one must, as you drive west, listen to every epic Western soundtrack. I don't know, it seems right. And it got caught off guard one summer, just kind of let my guard down and put out on Facebook as I was looking at the Grand Teton mountain range, that wouldn't it be cool if there was a violin concerto written in the style of an epic Western film score? And I thought, well, I know people, I know George. And so I put this on Facebook and I thought, oh, geez, there goes my career. Nobody's going to take me seriously ever again as a classical violinist. And immediately everybody's like, that's a great idea. This would be really cool. And so I just said, George, do you want to do this? And he said, yes. And here we are.
And you've been performing, traveling around, performing this concerto already several times.
Absolutely. This is going to be our 15th performance, maybe, George.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're headed
Wow.
off to California tomorrow. Well, George is already in California. I'm flying to California tomorrow to perform Rose this weekend with the Sequoia Symphony.
Daniel, how was the idea presented to you to program this concerto with the Wichita Symphony?
Well, I think we knew this already. I'm trying to remember exactly the order of how we put it all together. You'll have to actually remind me when we knew this was going to be finished, because
That was before the trailer. One of the things that we do is if people agree to program the Rose of Sonora on a future season, then we show up and we do a 3-minute trailer for free. And it's like movie, it's almost like a movie trailer in that. So I guess you guys had done and you had already decided prior to the 19th.
Well, yeah,
January 19th.
it was actually yes, because we were finishing off the 1920 season, the 2019-2020 season. And this was scheduled for April of 2020, but we all
Right.
know what happened then. And so there were certain works in the repertoire that we missed out on the end of the 1920 season that we wanted to bring back. And of course, this was one of them. And so it's in the same place of the season for the 21-22 season as it was for the 1920 season, the April concert. And actually the entire program is the same as it was going to be, which is an all-American program. with starting with John Williams' The Cowboys Overture, Western themed. And then, of course, Rose of Sonora with George S. Clinton. And then the second half is all American music, also Barber and Copeland. And the Copeland Rodeo 4 dance episodes is just Wild West all the way. So this is a wonderful program with so many different components that work together so well.
We'll be back and talk about more about what else is on the program and about this incredible concept that is fairly new to many of us called symphonic photochoreography that we'll get to experience as the audience. We're going to actually listen to the teaser that the Wichita Symphony Orchestra performed for the live audience, I think back in 2019, an excerpt of The Rose of Sonora back when the concerto was still in its infancy. It'll be fun to listen to, and we'll be back to talk more in just a moment. That applause for Concertmaster Holly Mulcahy and the Wichita Symphony Orchestra and the Sonora Sirs, members of the Wichita Symphony Orchestra chorus, men's chorus, all a part of the Rose of Sonora violin concerto featuring Holly, written by composer George S. Clinton. Everybody is joining me today in the green room. We have Holly Mulcahy, Daniel Hege, and George S. Clinton, zooming in from California, New York, and Chicago. They'll all be coming down to Wichita pretty soon for next weekend's concert, which is April 9th and 10th, Century 2 Concert Hall. Daniel gave us a rundown about what's on the concert, American music. Tell us, Daniel, about the photography.
Yes, this is photography by Westwater Arts. We've collaborated with them before. It's basically called photo choreography. There are 3 large panels across the back of the orchestra. So it's very panoramic in nature. People are often used to, if they do see some visuals with an orchestra, they'll see a slide, a screen right above the orchestra, but this will go all the way across. And it's just spectacular. There's spectacular photos, and they are kind of choreographed to the music. Now, I am not following what the images are. These are mostly still images, and they're kind of moving, they're not like movies, but they're images that are not just stationary. So they're always moving from one picture to another. And there are basically 2 visual works that we'll be showing. Nicholas Bardenet is the photo choreographer. And the first one is of the Anasazi Puebloan communities of the ancient pre-Columbian America down in the southwest of the United States. And that's going to be shown during Barber's Adagio for Strings. So we haven't played Adagio for Strings in a long time, and this is very fitting music for this kind of meditation on the enduring human spirit. Really, if you can see this, it's only about 11 or 12 minutes, but then we follow that with Aaron Copeland's Rodeo 4 dance episodes. And so there's another set of photos that are choreographed to that music, to all 4 of the movements. And that's really about rodeos and the contemporary Wild West, if you want to call it that. And so it's a lot of behind the scenes kind of things. And it's much more humorous and lighthearted. So it's a perfect kind of combination of pieces to have on the second half to show with the photo choreography.
George, does it ever get, well, I'm sorry, Daniel, I should follow up and say that sounds amazing. And I'm very much looking forward to kind of that, multimedia, multisensory experience. I'm kind of I look forward to the Adagio for Strings. However, I kind of can already tell you what my visceral reaction will be listening to that incredible piece of music with what you just described. Very moving. George, I'm really curious. You and Holly travel, well, you don't travel together because you live in different places, but you fly, to all of these premieres, all of these performances of the Rose of Sonora. Does it ever get old sitting in the audience as a composer and feeling everybody's response to your music the first time they hear it?
No, it does not. It's like going to a movie that I have scored, a film that I have scored, and sitting in the audience and watching the audience react to the film. That never gets tired either. But especially with Holly, one of the things that happens to me still to this day is I'll be listening to the orchestra and I'll be thinking, oh, that sounds good, or that could have been better, or whatever it is. But ultimately, what I am fixated on is Holly's performance. And what happens with this piece is she this transformation happens where she becomes the Rose of Sonora, and her violin becomes the voice of this character. And I'm always transfixed by that. I can't tell you when it happens, or, it's never in exactly the same place, but ultimately that's what happens for me.
And Holly, as the performer of the concerto that's getting so much attention right now, as you said, this will be your 15th performance. And I think about soloists who travel around and gig with symphonies. They're oftentimes just playing different things every time. You're living with this concerto constantly as you're traveling and performing it. Does it get old for you?
It doesn't, and I look forward to each performance with more energy as we get to the next performance, because the same thing happens every time. People cheer when they read the opening scene card. Before each scene, before each movement, there's a descriptor, and it's every audience always cheers on or gasps in the same places. But it's that energy that I get from the audience that just keeps this concerto so alive. And hearing their story, because it's, while there's a scene card, there's an idea of what's going on, people like to share what they have visualized. For instance, the end of the third scene, my mom said, that sounds like, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, that sounds like da 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 da, and somebody else said, that sounds like something completely different. And I thought, that is amazing, because I hadn't thought of either of those ideas. But now as I play those, I kind of visualize and take the audience's stories, and it's completely giving it a new dimension every single time. There's more dimension, more sides to this story, and that's what's so enjoyable, is giving the audience that empowerment to like own their story and share it.
And you have to be excited to share it in Wichita, especially right now.
Absolutely. Well, when we were first kind of putting this whole concept together, George did research on famous female outlaws, and Wichita is a hotbed of famous female outlaws back in the
Yes, we are.
1890s.
And we're still here. We're still
Yeah.
here.
So there's a lot of like real history that happened in Wichita that is transferred right into this concerto, different ideas. And so, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll be back, and we'll wrap up and talk more about the concert. We'll fill you in on all the details, how to get tickets, the where, when, and how of it all. But first, let's hear a bit of this Aaron Copland's Rodeo or Rodeo. This is The Hoedown with Michael Tilson Thomas and the San Francisco Symphony. Hoedown from Aaron Copland's Rodeo, which is on the program of the Wichita Symphony Orchestra concert, which takes place next weekend, April 9th and 10th. This is the Green Room. I'm Caitlin Matson-Levy here with Holly Mulcahy, Daniel Hege, and George S. Clinton. Daniel, let's talk a bit about logistics of the concert. It's at Century 2 Concert Hall. Can you run us down quickly how to get tickets?
WichitaSymphony.org is really the best way, or you can call the box office as well to get tickets.
WichitaSymphony.org. This is Saturday, April the 9th at 7:30, Sunday, April the 10th at 3 o'clock. And a rundown of the program for us one more time.
Sure. We're starting with John Williams' overture to The Cowboys, which was a 1972 film. And it's just an incredible piece of music if you're not familiar with it. It really sets the tone for the rest of the program, followed by The Rose of Sonora by George S. Clinton, who's with us here, and played by Holly Mulcahy. It's a violin concerto. It really has the feel of the Old West with a real story behind it, but you get to fill in the story too as a listener. On the second half, we have Westwater Arts photo choreography with Nicholas Bardonet, and we're showing amazing footage, photos of the Southwest United States with music by Samuel Barber and Aaron Copland. Rodeo or Rodeo. I get now tongue-tied about it.
I don't know how to say it anymore.
Well, it's really about, the rodeo, and we say
Sure.
rodeo, but a lot of people say rodeo. I heard it that way when I was a kid, but.
Well, sure. I hear it. I hear people pronounce it rodeo, but being from Kansas, I don't know. I just can't. Rodeo.
Yeah.
George S. Clinton is a composer of all sorts of things, film as well. And while I have you here, I just have to ask a little bit about being a film composer. One of the movies you are best known for composing the film score for is Austin Powers. And what is that like? What is it like being a film composer? Everybody knows, people walk around humming that Austin Powers theme, you know,
Mhm.
and they probably don't even think twice about it. They're not stopping and thinking, wow, somebody invented this, somebody composed this, somebody made sure that this was the earworm that was going to stick with me for the next 20 years.
I think the thing that is the most gratifying, and if a film composer's really done their job, excuse me, is they can come up with music that is so iconic in the film itself that it's always associated with that film, and that it doesn't necessarily stand out on its own and not have an association with the movie itself. So to have created some music that actually is like that is very satisfying. And you know, anytime, excuse me, anytime I hear it on at a restaurant or you know on television, I'm looking forward to those royalties.
Oh, fantastic. Holly and George and Daniel, uh, I can't thank you enough for all of you coordinating your schedules to meet with me at the same time. As you know, we span the time zones here and you're all in different states. In hearing about the concert, I get very, very excited. And I get excited for every concert, but this one in particular, I can't wait for because it's a long time coming. We've waited now 2 years to hear it. And it's just so incredibly special, I think, because it is Wichita, Holly, and I hope you feel by now that Wichita has fully embraced you as our own. You don't belong to Chicago, you're ours now, and that you're able to perform it here is so very special. And that George S. Clinton himself will be there as well. It's just fantastic. So Daniel, thank you so much. Is there anything else I'm missing to talk about to let people know?
I don't think so. This is going to be just a thrilling and entertaining concert all the way around. Don't miss it.
Don't miss it. April 9th, April 10th, Century 2 Concert Hall. For more information and tickets, go to wichitasymphony.org. Thank you all.